college football realignment and expansion court is now in session. And the most captain obvious choice. Finally, something that ain't really surprised me in all this has occurred. And that is, Oregon has officially put a filler out to the Big Ten and contacted them. They supposedly contacted them first, right? I have some doubts about that, but we'll get into that later. I have some doubts seriously about how these conferences supposedly don't contact the schools. Okay. Anyway, looks like that big old Oregon duck domino may finally fall. And if that domino falls, will there be one hell of an explosion in the college football expansion landscape? Let's talk about it. The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking. Just like that old Cinderella song from the 1980s. You never know what you got till it's gone. Well, the Pac-12 is about to be gone. And before we get to all that, I'd like to say that this is the outlaw of college football. I am the OCF. I'm also known as JPC. Can also be found on Twitter at OCF Productions, at OCF Productions. Also, you can hit me up on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark. And I am a graduate of the illustrious Athens Football Academy. That's right. That's where I got my AAU status. Big Ten will love that shit. They'll be asking me to join the Big Ten. I can be a commissioner or the assistant commissioner or some shit. But anyway, getting right to it. Looks like the old Oregon domino may be about to fall. The Oregon domino has been talked about numerous times. It's pretty much the captain obvious choice by many people to be the next team in the expansion efforts by the Big Ten for a West Wing. So if the Oregon domino falls, it's surely to be followed, in my opinion, like a lot of people have thought. Once again, Captain Obvious, Washington would be next, followed by California and Stanford. Now, a lot of people say, well, why would you take Cal? They really don't have much value. Now, academic-wise, they do make that AAU tent pop up in Kevin Ward's pants. But to me, I would not take Cal. But there is something that's probably forcing the hand of the Big Ten on that I can understand. And that is the fact that the California Board of Regents have gotten involved and discovered that they do have the power to possibly veto UCLA's move to the Big Ten if they do not acquiesce and take Cal with them. Because as you know, UCLA stands for University of California at Los Angeles, which means they are a part of the California University system, which is in Berkeley. That's where Cal is. So they may be forced to take Cal. If they don't take Cal, then they don't get UCLA. If they don't get UCLA, well, then they're starting over a little bit and trying to find someone else to replace UCLA. USC is a private school, so they're not affected by any of that. Now, I took a few notes right here, and I'm going to put a few people on the good list and the bad list. On the bad list is going to be Kevin Warren, of course, because he's a lying snake. He basically undermined the Pac-12 after he had asked them in the ACC, as we all remember, famously or infamously, they formed the loosely knit alliance between themselves, called it the Alliance. Oh, gee whiz. How original, right? And then he proceeded to go out there and fracture the Pac-12. Now, the reason why that's a big screw job to me is because last year the Pac-12 had an opportunity to possibly kill off the Big 12. And Kevin Warren got in there and said, no, don't do that, don't do that. We're gonna form an alliance, me, you, and the ACC, and we're going to punk out those bullies from the South, the SEC, for taking the teams that we wanted. Oh, oops. Did I say that out loud? That's right. Kevin Warren can say what he wants to, but he had an eye on Texas for a very long time, and Texas and Oklahoma ended up coming to the SEC. So that sort of pissed Kevin Warren off, and now he's in full expansion mode to try to prove that he can be King Dingaling like he tried to do with the 2020 football season, which backfired on him, by the way. But I must say he's nicely recovered if he closes the deal on this USC and UCLA thing, and the Board of Regents doesn't try to screw him, which I don't think they will. I think what will happen is that now they'll take those 4 teams because of the Oregon domino falls with Nike's money and whatnot. Those teams will follow, in my opinion. But here's the thing. At that point, all hell could break loose with the 4 corner states. Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado at that point. If those 4 teams left, I do think that it would cause a serious domino effect, and we would have an expansion hell, so to speak. With those 4 teams, in my opinion, would at that point join the Big 12. How ironic, the Big 12 was teetering last year and was on the brink of getting killed off by the Pac-12 and maybe even the AAC if ESPN had their way. But now the Big 12 gets to come back from the dead and possibly kill off the Pac-12. Where the Pac-12 messed up, in my opinion, in another area, was the fact that they didn't invite BYU. BYU would have been a big get. People don't realize that BYU is probably I think they're the last non-Power 5 school to win a national championship. No, Notre Dame does not count as non-Power 5 because they've always been given sort of a Power 5 status, even though they're independent. BYU was in the WAC conference back then. They won the national championship in 1984, and they've been able to beat the big boys with regularity, not just 1 or 2 upset jobs like Boise State did with Oklahoma. Anybody can get up for 1 game. BYU beat 5 Pac-12 schools last year. The Pac-12 missed the boat big time. If the Pac-12 had raided the Big 12 last year instead of listening to Kevin Warren's snaky ass, they would have been in a lot better position to absorb this blow. If they went out and got about 4 teams from the Big 12 and USC and UCLA left, they'd been able to absorb this blow. And like I said, I think BYU is a key component for both of those conferences, and Big 12 got them. BYU can compete with the big boys, and BYU can become sort of like their Notre Dame, the religious school that has a huge following and a great football program that can beat anybody on any given Saturday. Now, also, at some point, the grant of rights that goes to 2036 is going to come under fire. Now, if the Big Ten tries to go to 24 teams like some people think they will, Nick Saban even alluded to he thinks it's going to be 24 team conferences. And Nick Saban don't just randomly say shit usually. So he's probably got an inkling of something somewhere and heard some stuff. If they decide to go 24 teams, I think Kevin Warren would try to find some way to help some of those ACC schools get out of that grant of rights. All they got to have, and people keep saying, oh man, it's ironclad. There's no way to get out of that, man. You're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. It's not as hard as y'all think. I'm telling y'all that it's in there. It's in writing that if 8 teams leave, then the grant of rights goes away. So all that have to happen is for the SEC and the Big Ten to go in there at the same time and take 4 teams apiece. And the ones that they covet, there's also a few that the SEC covets. So you're going to see sort of a war over the ACC. The Big Ten covets UNC, Virginia, Georgia Tech, and possibly Pittsburgh is the teams that they're saying that they covet. Now, UNC and Virginia are 2 teams that the SEC covets as well. Georgia Tech, not so much. Georgia Tech used to be in the SEC back, I think it's in the 1960s that they left the SEC. And Atlanta is pretty close to Athens, so you really get the Atlanta market just by having the Bulldogs in the conference. So at that point, I don't think Georgia Tech would be a fit for the SEC. Georgia Tech, though, with their academics and whatnot that give rise to that tent that I was talking about in Kevin Warren's pants would fit with them, because they're going to keep talking about the AAU crap, even though these conferences are built on sports. They're built on sports and money. That's what these conferences are built on. They can say whatever they want to say and hide behind that bullshit academic stuff. We all know why they do that. Because when the SEC or the Big 12 or some other conference hands them their ass in football or any sport, that's what they hide behind. Well, we don't really care about that because we got AAU and we got endowments. Endowments is all that matters. Heck, give me a break, man. And we all got endowments. All these universities have got endowments. To keep throwing that AAU stuff out there when you know it's not true, because you're like, oh, we require AAU, but Nebraska doesn't have AAU anymore, but we're not going to kick them out because they had AAU when they joined. Oh, Notre Dame has never been AAU, but we're going to suck on that big old Irish cock because Notre Dame is a prestigious religious university that'll bring us prestige. I'm just not buying it, man. Y'all play the AAU card way too much, and y'all been hiding behind that stuff for way too long. And your skirt's been pulled down, man. Just go ahead and own it. Y'all want to be good in football, just like all these other conferences. If you say that, if you say it's a lie, then you're telling a lie. Now, moving on. Notre Dame can come in and steal anybody's cookie at any time. They could come in and take someone's Willy Wonka golden ticket at any time if they decide to lose their independence. Most specifically, Pittsburgh and Cal. Because Notre Dame, like I said, could put somebody out of the mix and push them down to one of the non-Power 5 conferences at that point, to be honest with you. Especially if the ACC gets disbanded and Pittsburgh doesn't get invited. Then Pittsburgh could find themselves in the AAC or Conference USA or Sunbelt, somewhere like that. But back to BYU. BYU, to me, is a very intriguing thing. The Mormon religion, while a lot of people don't adhere to it, is a very big worldwide religion, and they have a huge following because of that, just like Notre Dame with the Catholicism. So, on top of that, with the big following in religion, they also have a large, very supportive, loyal fan base that once given that big ticket, once they were given that big Willy Wonka golden ticket, I think BYU can become a major player. Like I said, they've beaten the big boys in the past, and maybe, just maybe the Big Ten should consider filching BYU away from the Big 12. Like I said, there's a lot of scenarios to go through. I'm sure everybody's got their own opinion, and a lot of y'all probably can come up with better scenarios than I did. But I'm just going by what the reports are saying. It's saying that Oregon has contacted the Big Ten, and that if they join the Big Ten, the dominoes are going to start falling big time. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart option down here at the bottom of the screen. You can click on that, throw a few dollars in the coffer, $1 or $2 here or there. Everybody throws in $1 or $2. Hell, that adds up. Gets us off that YouTube teat. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams, class is now dismissed.